Hello, my name is Jennifer Wallen. I am currently in the Practicum course, BLE 580, with Dr. Amy Marcos at Arizona State University. And this is my final Practicum presentation. A little about me. That is a picture of myself and my daughter at a music festival in Atlanta when we could go to festivals in 2019. I graduated from Arizona State back in 2000, a lifetime ago, with a BA in English Literature. Currently, I teach ESL courses online to adult refugee English learners who were enrolled at the International Rescue Committee in Atlanta, Georgia. I have been teaching for only about 5 months right now, and I love it and hope to continue. It is also my hope to, after this program, and I graduate, to continue serving my community, whether it be with IRC or any other nonprofit is my preference, by educating those who are marginalized and in need of English speaking skills to improve their current circumstances and to help them navigate their way through their new adopted country. A little bit of context about the IRC. There's a lot of information here, but just to highlight the important parts of who we actually teach in our classes. And these are all strictly Atlanta statistics, as IRC is a worldwide organization. But statistics from last year's wrap-up would be similar to this year, perhaps numbers a bit smaller as we move to virtual learning because of coronavirus. But these are just the average numbers. So last year, the IRC taught 696 adults in the Atlanta area ESL. Normally classes are usually in person 5 days a week. Here they are 3 days a week virtual for an hour and a half to 2 hours each time. We do have a good mix of men and women. Mostly at this time it does seem to be women because of the scheduling of our class time online. Most of the men are working at the time, but we do have a few. So last year 280 men completed at least 50 hours of instruction time per client, and 416 women completed 67 hours. And again, the makeup is mostly women over men. A lot of them would be reported and directly by IRC once coming to the country, and a lot of our students have been recruited once they are here, sometimes enrolled with other settlement agencies besides IRC. The makeup is extremely varied. As it says here, clients came from at least 55 countries, 690 clients with known nationality demographics of 696 total. So they're from all over. Personally, in my own class, I have a lot of students from Afghanistan. I do have students from Syria, Thailand, the DNR, or DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. And I even have a woman from Russia, an older woman. So it's really varied. And a lot of the variance with that goes also for their English speaking skills, ranging from newcomer, which we call L1s, to pre-intermediate, L2, intermediate, L3, and advanced L4. L4 has been a new designation now to kind of split up the classes a little more evenly. And after we've had some time to really closely evaluate some of our newer students. So the basic instruction in class, it's a lot looser than a regular school program, elementary school program. It's the content really is heavily vocabulary centered. And then within that vocabulary, using that to really guide our students into adapting to and navigating essential functions of American life. Doctor's appointments, grocery shopping is huge, shopping in general, um, how to bank, how to get around town, travel, things like that. So for my project, the 4 areas of focus I have been working on are vocabulary comprehension. It's estimated the number of words that refugee students need to learn is in thousands just to acclimate and to get around town as efficiently as possible and begin communicating quickly in their new land. And as Razik et al. In his research study suggested that ESL students need to acquire plenty of words to enable to the acquisition of the target language. So vocabulary is pretty much first and foremost in our instruction. The second area I chose to focus on would be interactive group work and peer review. As we'll see, there's not a lot of opportunity for that online in our classes. There's more so allowed for in-person learning. But I do think it's really important, as Light Brown and Spada suggest, an interactive environment in the classroom allows for genuine communicative practice that allows for a negotiation of meaning. And it is precisely this negotiation of meaning that is essential for language acquisition, which I take the negotiation of meaning to mean between peers. Not only between students and teachers, but between differing levels of peer communication can only help a lower level learner learn from a higher level learner. And then it just, interactive work just really enhances the classroom environment and helps bring down that affective filter that Krashen speaks about, creating a more genuine, empathetic environment for learning. The third area of focus is comprehensible input. Again, back to Krashen, Stephen Krashen and his work in second language learning. Krashen's input hypothesis suggests we acquire language when we understand messages or obtain comprehensible input. That is, we acquire language when we understand the things we hear or read. And that's out of Wright in his book, Foundations for English Learning. And I really do think the input hypothesis, focusing on comprehensible input, is the basis for all learning acquisition, especially for ELLs. And then lastly, I wanted to focus upon building upon the CLD biography, which relates to comprehensible input, but with specific tasks I've put into our revised lesson plans. Again, to practice differentiated instruction, to acknowledge students' histories, to really show them that we are interested in who they are as a person, as people, where do they come from, and to give them the opportunity to bring in to the classroom their own stories and to have them valued and appreciated, and to show them that we want to hear them and we want them to tell us about them so we can learn from them and hopefully build a stronger curriculum to enhance their learning. Okay, so delving a little deeper on taking the 4 areas of focus and going deeper into 2 areas. The first area I decided to work with is in vocabulary development and creating lessons that were specifically culturally relevant in terms of vocabulary usage. Um, just because of what we spoke about, just the vast amount of vocabulary words ELLs need to learn quickly, and especially in the refugee situation, as I've already stated, making vocabulary comprehension as relatable as possible for our students. And in support of vocabulary development and its importance, I've quoted Herrera here, who her textbooks just seem to be absolute Bibles for our entire course of study, but in particular to vocabulary development. Herrera supports, quote, when educators begin reading instruction by bringing students' schema to the surface, the cultural and linguistic backgrounds of the CLD student are not only acknowledged, but also built on to promote meaningful connections to text. So in a sense here, yes, validating the importance of vocabulary development, but also suggesting how to go about it for ELLs. What is the most effective way that educators have found to increase development and comprehension? The second resource for my vocabulary development area is from Wright. And Wright expresses the need to help ELLs learn to correctly pronounce the new term, the need for teachers to provide at least 2 examples drawing from familiar concepts, and the need to engage students in structured oral or written tasks using the new term. So right here as well, expressing the need for vocabulary learning and culturally relevant learning, as he says, provide at least 2 examples from familiar concepts, and then engaging the student. And by engaging, not just instructing, but bringing the student along for the length of the lesson and keeping interest, and ultimately relating it back to what they know, to their culture, to lay that groundwork that they can build upon. So for evidence here, what I have done is I'm going to show you an existing lesson plan on family from the IRC. The lesson plans are structured by days. So there's a Tuesday class, a Thursday class, and a Friday class. I'm going to go ahead and show you the beginning of the Tuesday class, which is where I decided to go ahead and revamp it. But here's the existing lesson. Let me open this screen a little bit here more for you. And this is just how it looks. It's real basic. It's so non-structured from any other kind of class environment that I hope we can see it okay. It was easier to link it versus copy and paste, because there's other links in here we are going to open as well. So here we go, Tuesday lesson, objectives, again, immediate family members. So they're all structured in a whole group discussion, and then we divide up into breakout rooms according to levels of English learning. So quickly we'll go through what is here. We always start with a roll call. It never really seems to pertain to the topic of the day. That is something I would like to change. What's the date? What's the weather? Fine. That's always something to consistently go over. And here they have a suggestion for a poll, which would just be a random call out, brothers, sisters, etc. We usually try to do one PowerPoint as a whole group. And actually this one does seem to be fairly relevant in what we're doing. So just a slight example of what it does normally look like. It would be just strict vocabulary, mom, daughter, wife, husband, dad, son, and these would just be called out and repeated. A lot of times it's, what do you see in this picture? How do can you read the words, and how do you spell the words? So that's not too off base with what we're looking for. And then now in the breakout rooms, what we'll go ahead and do here is we split up into groups, and we'll look at the activities that are suggested here for our Tuesday lesson, lesson 1. And again, here it does try to stay family related. I'm not sure if working in numerical questions is of relevance, but it is still on topic. Here, inserting a pronoun, I'm not sure is so necessary at this point when they're really just learning the basic family vocabulary. Okay, so that will just go through, and that's always just a, what's in the picture, who wants to read, and we answer the question. Another activity I'm not even going to open. We included a family crossword puzzle, which really just looks like a word search. I don't see the relevance in that. So I'd like to go ahead and probably get rid of that. And then this was a advice column that I would like to nix completely when adult children come home. I don't know, as far as vocabulary, okay, but a topic, I think that we can really get in there and do a lot better with that. So that is what I have done, and we'll go ahead and take a look at what I've evidenced and briefly discuss what I've done with the new unit. So here we have the new IRC Family Unit Lesson Plan revision. This would be part 1 or a Tuesday lesson, the beginning point where we would go ahead and start. I apologize, my screen is a little off base, but we can get the idea here. So, okay, I should say that I've gone ahead and tried to reference the SIOP model as much as possible. Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, I just found it really useful in a lot of our tasking for this course, and just like a great guidebook. So this is not specific to that, but it is guided by that, because the IRC plans are very general, as you can see, and trying to really make it more concentrated and precise. So we've gone ahead and we've set it up with a lesson 1 title, Who is in Your Family? And this is under the underlying IRC family unit. And the purpose of lesson, like we discussed, is vocabulary comprehension tasking for L1 to L3 learners. And ideally, instead of getting them individualized in the breakout rooms according to learning, I would like to have differentiated levels. And we can get more into why in our second plan for interactiveness. So, okay, so then the lesson objectives, again, vocabulary related to family members' titles. We'll throw in just a bit of adjective vocabulary to describe their own families. And then we will help the students begin to tell us about their families in a couple of different formats. We'll have the vocabulary up there on the board, and then we'll get into the lesson plan. So as a whole group, instead of saying, as we did in the IRC plan, something that is not as relevant just to take roll, we're going to go ahead and get right into the meat of it and call on the students individually, okay? And then we're going to ask if they have siblings or if they are an only child. And again, if they don't understand those terms, we will explain them. And the teacher will go first to demonstrate. So, hi, my name is Jennifer. I have 2 brothers, for example. And then I think at this point, to incorporate a bit of the IRC plan, we are going to go ahead and go back to this slideshow with the family members, because it is basic. It's not exactly what we're needing, but it's there and it's workable and it is relatable to the topic at hand. So we will go through the slides here again. Okay, just an example. Okay. Then what we would like to do is go ahead and continue with the breakout rooms, again, with differentiated learners. And then I'd like to incorporate as much differing modalities as I can, and we will watch a video called What is Family? Super cute. It's about Australian kids talking about their family, naming their families, and a few attributes of their families. They find them annoying, they find them this, they find them that. So we will go ahead and go through that. We will whiteboard vocabulary once again, add to the previous key vocabulary, and then we will discuss, most importantly, get student input regarding using their primary language. So if I was to say grandmother, that means what? It means abuela in Spanish. So to have the students suggest what they call certain family members in their own language, and then support that with the English terminology, just to really keep that PLS in play as much as possible. So number 2, what we will do is go ahead and do a project, and students are going to be asked to do a word splash. So using words and pictures, they will pick one relative, and they will describe them on poster board. They will draw them. They are encouraged to use primary language, and we can go back and rework that into English language to get everything finished. Teacher will circulate for any questions and just get a nice wealth of vocabulary that can tie us through the rest of the unit. And then at the end, the student will be asked to describe their splash. Again, I foresee a full group discussion using primary language, using interactiveness with their other teammates, and that would be the end of that specific activity. So the next video we will watch, and again, I imagine this will take two days in class to do, most of it, possibly 3, is we'll watch a video on family tree. And it's just the basic, what is a family tree? How do we create a family tree? And we can link the video here to check it out. But just real simple, incorporating PLS again as much as possible, replacing or converting into English words using the website Popple, which is super cute for creating trees or charts and things like that. So the teacher will do hers again to set an example, and then the students will come up in the next day or so and try to create their own family tree as well. And again, here you can see as much primary language as possible should be used. So that's a little interpretation of how in depth I would like to add to the IRC family unit for the first lesson on family. As we move into the next lesson, again under the whole family unit plan, I really wanted to go ahead and tackle the importance of interactive and group peer work. So last course we read excerpts from this wonderful book by Late Brown and Spada, How Languages Are Learned. And they had a let's talk method of underlying one of their 6 proposals to second language learning, talking about the importance of group work and peer work and the positive outcomes that can come from that, and how it's also important to put L1 learners with, higher level learners to get that higher level learning going on there, and in support of the L1 and in support of L3 as well. So from the textbook, How Languages Are Learned, the authors say, quote, when pair work functions collaboratively and learners are in an expert-novice relationship, they can successfully engage in the co-construction of knowledge. So it's just a real positive outcome that can be taken from where they say here expert novice relationship in peer work, in group work, meaning putting an L1 with an L3 in the IRC classroom and encouraging communication between them, not only to create, a really warmer learning environment inside the classroom, but to also let them engage each other and help each other and understand each other where they are linguistically, and try to help each other the best that they can. And sometimes it's a bit better instruction than a student-teacher relationship can provide. So just having the opportunity for that interaction is valuable. And again, another source to support interactive work comes from the linguistics class, and Freeman and Freeman, their textbook, Essential Linguistics. And I found this quote interesting. It's not completely appropriate to or directed at interactive work. It's more about acquisition learning, versus instructed learning. But I do feel with interactive work, it's acquired. It can come more naturally and create a more fluid learning experience for our ELLs. So they contend second language learners, like babies acquiring their first language, will pick up correct pronunciations of the sounds of the language as they hear and use the language in natural communication. So again, just supporting the fact of staggering learning levels, right? So if you just have L1s with L1 and a teacher in the classroom instructing, that they're going to pick up a lot from the teacher, but there are so many more moments that would be more valuable if they were staggered with higher level, even in just passing conversations that they overhear certain words, certain terms, phrases that come from an L3 or an L4. It's time not wasted, right? So they just absorb everything that's going around them in the classroom. And to wit here with pronunciations, exactly with pronunciations as well. It's all of that they will go ahead and pick up. So, just benefits of interactive work. So again, evidencing my reworking of the part 2 of the IRC lesson plan, again under the family unit, that this would be the Thursday lesson. We can view this document here. It takes a second, sorry about that. Okay, so we did Tuesday. Let's go down here and look at the next lesson. So I'm gonna say just right off the bat that my intent here is to discard. I don't feel that the objective here is, as you can see, American weddings, okay, and to go through the whole wedding vocabulary and American wedding process. And I just don't think for a second unit, or I'm sorry, a second lesson on learning about family terminology, not just American, okay, right? So we're learning about terms for family terms that everybody can relate to in the previous lesson. This lesson just entirely, to me, goes off track. So it is a wedding video. Again, I don't think the roll call is super relevant right now. The poll, how many children do you have? Okay, that's kind of sticking with it. But then to just go on and talk about wedding terminology throughout the entire lesson, I'm not sure that's where we need to be right now. So what I've done is gone back and reworked it. So here we'll take a quick look at what I consider would be a better, I'm in no way better than, what my current teachers are doing. And that's not to say that, and I am new. So, but what I think might work a little better in keeping in consistency. So lesson 2, I want you to tell us and describe your family. So the purpose of lesson, along with reinforcing that family vocabulary we just learned, we're going to bring in a little bit of adjective vocabulary, particularly used in describing things. And then also with this newer vocabulary, we're going to develop our peer-to-peer relationships, which will, like we just spoke about, instigate cooperation, empathetic communication, and higher level immersion and learning. So our vocabulary will be introduced in the whole group. And you can see we have family vocabulary here, and we have adjectives that describe people, right? So we're going to want the students to start telling us, okay, this is my mother, this is my father, but, what are they like? How are they? Show the interest that we want to learn more, not just who are the members of their family, but what are they like? Is that why you are the way you are? Where do you get your traits from as well? And again, we'll start off roll call by asking them where they were born and where was your mother born. So I would say, hi, my name is Jennifer. I was born in Pennsylvania, and my mother was born in Pennsylvania too. Just to get a little bit of insight during roll call that is still relevant. Then as a whole group, we'll watch that great Schoolhouse Rock video, Unpack Your Adjectives, which is delightful, and the students should just enjoy it. It's from the 70s. It's great. I wish we had time to watch it here now, but it begins, what is an adjective? And it'll tell you. And then let's go ahead and just talk about the adjectives we hear in the video and write down the adjectives that we hear, and we'll just have a discussion about the video itself and adjectives in general. Then we'll divide into breakout rooms, and we'll do it one more time. We'll bring in another modality that is enjoyable, and it's the video, The Zebra Question by Shel Silverstein, which is a poem that was on the video, narrated quite enjoyably. More adjectives. And ask students to write the adjectives that they hear. What did everybody hear? Let's go over them. What do they mean? Bring in that PLS as much as we can. And then through the adjectives that we have in the whole group segment and what we come up with in the breakout rooms, we're just going to whiteboard them, okay? So we're just going to put adjectives on the board, and we'll have a quick discussion again, just a quick review, and then we'll leave the words up there. Now, where it gets to interaction is these students have been building on their family trees, right? Building on the vocabulary for describing their family and listing their family and who is your family. So they've been doing this individually. up to this point. And now we're going to go ahead and put them in groups of 2. And we're going to put an L1 maybe with an L3 and an L2 maybe with an L4 to increase those learning levels and acquisition. So once we get them into groups, each student will explain their own family tree. Students will then interview each other regarding their family members, and they will have 3 questions. And it should be relatively okay for each level to vocalize the questions and understand the questions. And we'll ask them, okay, so for each member of their family, what is their country of origin? What is their primary language or secondary language? What is their schooling history? And tell me one thing about them. So we're not only reinforcing the vocabulary here, we're showing that even students to each other want to know more. And once they get to know more about the students' backgrounds and cultural histories, hopefully empathetic relationships can develop, or friendships, or mentoring, or things of that nature, more than just learned instruction. We want to create an environment that is successful for learning. So during this interview, it's being shown that, I, as a L1 student, am curious about you as your L3 student, your life, your background. Where are you from? And then they can compare and contrast stories as well. So the students will then write down the summaries based on what they just interviewed the other student from. So another student's summary. And again, I know this seems a little long, and I do anticipate it probably taking 2 or 3 days as a whole to go through. And then at the end, when the presentations are ready, the students will once again work on their oral language development as they did in lesson 1 with the word splash, and present the summaries on their peers to the class. And then I think if there's enough time, what would be ideal is to take the pairs, the groups, and have them compare and contrast, like, oh, I have 2 cousins, but he only has 1. I have 1 sister, he only has a brother. And just for the last, really get it in there as a whole group, and work it out, and just get in there and keep repeating the vocabulary that needs to be repeated. Just make sure that you just have a firm grasp before you go ahead and move on to another lesson, possibly within the 4 that I initially developed on building like more of a CDL biography and something of a deeper project in that respect. So I do believe that is all I have for you at this time. I want to say thank you to Dr. Marcos for a really interesting final project. And I hope everything was great, and good luck to everybody. Thank you so much.